Did you know that nearly 1 in 3 marriages in Australia ends in divorce? That's not just a number. It's hundreds of thousands of families torn apart, children caught in the middle, and love stories rewritten in courtrooms. What's going wrong in a country that once valued happily ever after? Are Australians falling out of love faster than ever, or is something deeper happening beneath the surface? While some blame technology, others point fingers at shifting values, rising stress, or even social media. But the truth is, the reasons behind the surge in divorces are far more complex and more surprising than you might think. From emotional disconnection to cultural mismatches, we'll uncover the hidden factors quietly destroying marriages across the nation. So, before you assume it could never happen to you, stay with us, because the number one reason why couples are breaking up today is something almost every relationship is guilty of, and no one talks about it. Number 10. Social media pressure. It might seem harmless, scrolling through Instagram, double-tapping a happy couple's photo, or watching yet another perfect relationship on TikTok. But what if we told you that these platforms are quietly chipping away at real-life marriages? Social media has created a constant highlight reel, and many couples find themselves comparing their relationship to carefully curated images of others. When everyone else appears to be in love, traveling, smiling, and thriving, your own relationship can start to feel inadequate. These comparisons aren't just surface level. They breed doubt, resentment, and unrealistic expectations. You begin to wonder, why aren't we like them? Even when those other couples are only showing their best 5 seconds of the day. And it's not just about jealousy, it's about validation. People start seeking approval from strangers online instead of nurturing their connection at home. Constant notifications, secret DMs, or flirtatious comments can quickly become cracks in a relationship's foundation. Over time, partners may feel emotionally neglected, disconnected, or worse, suspicious. A recent study from the University of Queensland found a direct link between heavy social media use and relationship dissatisfaction, especially when one partner feels ignored or overshadowed by the other's online life. In a world where digital presence is everything, the pressure to appear happy can actually stop couples from being happy in real life. If left unchecked, social media doesn't just distract, it divides. And for many Aussie couples, this invisible wedge has become the silent beginning of the end. Number 9. Financial incompatibility. They say love is priceless, but ask any divorced couple, and many will tell you that money matters more than you'd think. In fact, financial incompatibility is one of the leading causes of divorce in Australia, and it's not just about how much someone earns, it's about how they handle it. Some people are savers, others are spenders. One may be investing for retirement, while the other is racking up credit card debt on impulse buys. These clashing mindsets don't just cause arguments, they build long-term resentment. Over time, it's not just about the money itself, but what it represents. Control, trust, independence, or even love. Many couples avoid talking openly about finances until it's too late. Hidden debts, secret purchases, or unequal contributions can erode trust and breed bitterness. Even well-off couples aren't immune. Just because there's more money doesn't mean there's more peace. In fact, sometimes higher incomes come with more stress, higher expectations, and greater emotional distance. According to a report by Relationships Australia, financial stress is cited in over 35% of divorce filings, especially when external pressures, like rising living costs, mortgages, or job instability, come into play. And when arguments over money go unresolved, they often spill into every other part of a relationship. The truth is, financial compatibility isn't just about budgets and spreadsheets. It's about shared goals, open communication, and mutual respect. Without that foundation, even the strongest love can collapse under the weight of unspoken financial tension. Number 8. Loss of intimacy. Intimacy isn't just about sex, it's about connection. And when that connection fades, even the most committed couples can begin to feel like strangers living under the same roof. In Australia, a rising number of divorce cases cite loss of intimacy as a major factor. The demands of modern life, careers, parenting, stress, and even screen time can push couples into survival mode. The result? Touch becomes routine, Conversations become transactional, and moments of closeness become rare. Slowly, what started as a passionate bond turns into something that feels more like a business partnership than a romance. This doesn't happen overnight. It's usually a slow drift. One partner might feel emotionally starved, while the other is unaware that anything is wrong. Physical affection disappears. Contact fades. Eventually, one or both partners begin to feel unseen and undesired, a feeling that can be more painful than any argument. Studies from the Australian Institute of Family Studies show that emotional and physical intimacy play a critical role in long-term relationship satisfaction. Without them, couples lose not just connection, but motivation to stay committed when conflict arises. Rebuilding intimacy takes effort, honesty, and often vulnerability, something many couples avoid until it's too late. And in the absence of that closeness, some start to seek it elsewhere, or begin imagining a life alone that feels less lonely than the one they're living together. When intimacy fades, love doesn't always die, but it stops feeling alive. Number 7. Cultural and value clashes. Australia is one of the most diverse countries in the world, and that's something to be proud of. But when it comes to relationships, cultural differences and conflicting values can sometimes create a silent storm behind closed doors. In the early stages of love, these differences can feel exciting, even romantic. Different traditions, family dynamics, or worldviews may seem like beautiful contrasts. But as the relationship matures, those differences often become dividing lines. For example, what one partner sees as normal parenting, the other might view as too strict or too relaxed. Disagreements on gender roles, religion, food, holidays, or even how to communicate can become everyday battlegrounds. It's not just about culture. It's also about deep-rooted values. One partner may prioritize family, while the other prioritizes career. One may value emotional expression, while the other prefers silence. When these core beliefs clash, couples often find themselves speaking different emotional languages, and no amount of compromise can completely erase that tension. According to data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, intercultural couples report higher rates of miscommunication and conflict, especially when extended families are involved. Expectations from parents or in-laws can make things even harder, especially if there's pressure to follow cultural norms that one partner doesn't fully understand or accept. Cultural love stories can absolutely work, but only when built on deep understanding, flexibility, and respect. Without that, even the smallest differences can become daily sources of stress, and over time, those stresses add up to separation. Number 6. Career priorities and workaholism. In a world where success is often measured by promotions, paychecks, and productivity, many Australians are pouring everything into their careers, sometimes at the expense of their relationships. On the surface, being career-driven seems admirable. Long hours, big goals, constant hustle, it's part of modern life. But behind the scenes, many partners are left feeling like they're competing with a job for attention. Dinner dates turn into late-night meetings. Weekend plans are replaced by deadlines. And slowly, one person begins to feel like a second priority in their own relationship. What starts as temporary sacrifice often becomes a permanent dynamic. When one partner is constantly absent, physically or emotionally, it can create a deep sense of loneliness and emotional neglect. The other begins to question, if your job means everything, where do I fit in? Research from Relationships Australia reveals that career-related stress and workaholism are significant contributors to marital dissatisfaction. The rise of remote work and always-on digital culture has blurred the lines between home and office, making it even harder for couples to truly connect. What's more, when success becomes an identity, personal relationships are sometimes seen as distractions instead of priorities. That disconnect can be devastating over time, especially if one partner feels unappreciated or undervalued. Careers can give purpose, but partnerships need presence. Without quality time, shared experiences, and genuine attention, love slowly gets replaced by routine and eventually regret. Number 5. Mental health struggles. Love can be strong, but it's not always strong enough to carry the weight of unseen battles. In many Australian marriages today, mental health challenges are silently pulling couples apart. Depression, anxiety, trauma, and burnout are becoming more common than ever. But here's the hard truth. When left untreated or unspoken, these struggles don't just affect individuals. They affect entire relationships. One partner may begin to feel emotionally unavailable, withdrawn, or numb, while the other feels helpless, frustrated, or shut out. Mental health issues don't make someone a bad partner, but without support, they can create walls of isolation. Simple conversations turn into tense silences. Plans get canceled, joy disappears, and the emotional connection that once held the relationship together begins to crumble under pressure. A study from Beyond Blue found that couples facing untreated mental health issues were twice as likely to separate compared to those who sought early intervention. The stigma around therapy or emotional vulnerability only makes things worse, causing many to suffer quietly until it's too late. The solution isn't to walk away, it's to walk together with compassion and patience. But for that to happen, both partners need to recognize the problem, communicate honestly, and seek help when needed. Because mental illness may not be anyone's fault, but recovery is always a shared journey. We put a lot of heart into making videos that actually matter, so if this resonated with you, tell us in the comments. Which reason felt the most real? And hey, subscribing is just one click, but it means the world to us. Let's grow this conversation together. Number 4. Infidelity and emotional affairs. When most people think of infidelity, they picture secret hotel rooms and dramatic betrayals. But today, affairs are often far more subtle and far more emotional. In modern Australia, many relationships break down not because of physical cheating, but because of emotional connections formed outside the relationship. It might start as a harmless message to a coworker or an old flame. Then come late-night texts, inside jokes, and eventually, the sharing of thoughts and feelings that should be reserved for your partner. What makes emotional affairs so dangerous is that they feel innocent. There's no physical contact, no obvious boundary crossed. Yet they quietly drain energy, intimacy, and honesty from the primary relationship. And the betrayed partner often feels more hurt by the emotional bond than they would from a physical one. According to a report from Relationships Australia, over 60% of couples who experienced infidelity say it began emotionally. And in many cases, the affair didn't happen out of lust. It happened because someone felt lonely, unappreciated, or emotionally disconnected at home. Technology makes temptation easier. With just a few taps, you can escape reality, seek validation, or relive a fantasy. But every message, every secret, adds distance between real partners. Infidelity doesn't always begin in the bedroom. It begins when honesty leaves the relationship. And for many couples, by the time the truth surfaces, the emotional damage is already done. Number 3. Lack of communication. You'd think communication would be the easiest part of any relationship, but it's actually one of the most common reasons marriages end in Australia. And here's the twist. It's not just about arguing. It's about not talking at all. At the start of a relationship, couples talk about everything: dreams, fears, future plans. But over time, conversations shrink into short updates. Pick up milk. Don't forget the bills. What's for dinner? The emotional depth fades. And eventually, so does the connection. Lack of communication doesn't always come with shouting or slamming doors. More often, it's silence that kills love. Important things go unsaid. Resentments build. Assumptions replace actual understanding. And in that silence, partners drift apart, until they barely recognize the person they once couldn't live without. A study by the Australian Institute of Family Studies found that poor communication was cited in nearly half of all divorces. It's not just the big fights. It's the everyday disconnection. When couples stop listening, stop sharing, and stop caring how the other person feels, the relationship begins to collapse from the inside out. And when conflicts do arise, many couples lack the tools to handle them. They either avoid the issue completely or argue without resolution. Over time, this pattern creates a relationship that feels more like a battlefield than a partnership. The truth is, healthy communication is the foundation of lasting love. Without it, even the strongest bonds can quietly fall apart. Number 2. Marrying too young or too fast. Falling in love is easy. But staying in love, especially when you've barely figured out who you are, is something entirely different. In Australia, a growing number of divorces come from couples who married too young or moved too fast. When you're young, every emotion feels amplified. The highs are euphoric, the connection intense, and the dreams shared seem beautifully aligned. But fast forward a few years, and reality starts to creep in. People change, priorities shift, and suddenly, you're waking up next to someone who feels like a stranger. Rushing into marriage often means skipping the hard conversations about money, kids, boundaries, or long-term goals. What felt like true love may have actually been infatuation, pressure, or escape. And when that initial spark fades, couples are left without the tools or foundation to weather the storms. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, couples who marry before the age of 25 are significantly more likely to divorce than those who wait. The risk increases further when the relationship moved quickly. Engagements after only a few months, marriages formed under pressure, or even a sense of fixing something through commitment. The problem isn't just age, it's readiness. Emotional maturity, life experience, and self-awareness are all crucial to building a lasting marriage. And when those pieces are missing, love alone isn't enough. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how fast you fall in love. It's about how deeply you grow together. Number 1. Unrealistic expectations of marriage. We grow up with fairy tales, romantic movies, and Instagram love stories that paint marriage as the ultimate happily ever after. But here's the hard truth. Many Australian marriages are falling apart because couples walk in with expectations that reality can't live up to. People expect constant happiness, effortless passion, and a partner who always knows what to say. When the honeymoon phase ends, and it always does, many feel disappointed, confused, or even cheated. The everyday challenges of real life, finances, family pressures, mental health, and personal growth begin to surface. And instead of adapting together, couples start to feel like they've made a mistake. A report by Relationships Australia found that unrealistic expectations are a core underlying issue in countless separations. Many couples believe marriage will fix everything: loneliness, insecurity, or instability. But instead of solving problems, marriage tends to amplify them. The truth is, no one talks enough about the work that real relationships require. The messy arguments, the emotional growing pains, the days when love feels more like effort than feeling. But that's the real journey. Marriage isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a long, complicated, beautiful one. When couples enter marriage expecting perfection, they often end up with disappointment instead of resilience. But when they enter with commitment, patience, and eyes wide open, they give love the space it needs to grow. Because a strong marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing each other, again and again, even when it's hard. So what do all these reasons have in common? Whether it's money, mental health, or mismatched values, most divorces don't happen overnight. They build slowly, through small moments of disconnection, unmet expectations, and silence that grows louder with time. Divorce isn't always about drama or betrayal. Sometimes it's just two people who stopped growing together. And while it's easy to blame one issue, the reality is usually a mix of pressures, both seen and unseen. Life is messy, relationships are complex, and love, real love, takes more than just chemistry. It takes communication, patience, effort, and above all, awareness. But here's the good news. Understanding these reasons doesn't just explain why marriages end. It gives us the insight to protect the ones that still have a chance. Because the more we talk about these issues openly, the more likely we are to face them before they reach a breaking point. Whether you're married, divorced, or still figuring love out, remember, the goal isn't a perfect relationship. It's a real one. If this video gave you clarity, comfort, or even just something to think about, you're not alone. Relationships are hard, but learning about them, that's how they get better.